There's a really nice Grand National turbo that I did an upgrade for. Originally, we just started with a precision turbo, and I replaced the whole turbo except the exhaust housing. This exhaust housing is a .63 turbine housing that Precision had for an upgrade for the Grand National. And so we just made it our own style. So I'll just show you what it looks like. The exhaust housing, I faced this flange, so I just completely resurfaced it so you don't have to worry about the wastegate area leaking anymore. Before it was just, there was rust all the way from here to here, which it rotted out and was like a little cavity there. Well, now it's completely flat so that the wastegate will seal properly. The turbine housing I machined out. First I surfaced it to be able to grab it, and then I grabbed it on the inside bore here, and then machined it from the, I guess it was a P-trim turbine, so I machined it from 64.5 to a 67mm turbine wheel. This is also a special ball bearing turbine shaft that we had custom made. So we put this in. It's a 67 by 74mm turbine. We put it inside of a GT35R bearing housing, and I take these plates, machine them for an O-ring so that it seals to the compressor housing. That's one thing that Garrett never did that I think was probably one of the biggest mistakes. I just don't understand why they did that. I've had people that have told me that they bought turbos that were like a GT35R from Garrett, and they said that it was leaking between the seal plate and the housing from factory. I just think that's very poor craftsmanship to not have that done properly. So I go back and redo all that so that it has, I machined this for the O-ring so it will seal here. The only other place it could leak is at these bolts, so we just silicone the bolt holes, or silicone the bolts so that they seal against the housing. And this one is also water cooled and oil cooled. So the water cooling is just to keep the bearing housing cool. It's just the same purpose as the engine. It just has water jackets in there. There's no seals or anything. Here's a look at the turbine housing after I did the machine work. I also have adapter plates that will help hold this bearing housing down. It's just spacers to hold it down. I replaced the compressor housing on the turbo that was originally on there because I think it makes the most sense just to go ahead and do anti-surge. This compressor wheel is a wheel that we had custom made. This is a 67mm compressor wheel. It's actually 67.43. This compressor wheel is a mimic of the Precision 6766, but the difference is we had it machined for a 2mm superback so that we could use it on the GT35R center cartridge. Otherwise, they have a 5mm superback, and Precision uses the 5mm superback for their ball bearing and for their journal bearing turbochargers. So the only way for us to make this into the GT35R ball bearing series was to have the back of the compressor wheel machined. I surfaced this out so that I could grab it, and then I flare this so it just makes for a smooth transition to the compressor wheel. So this turbo is good for, well, it's kind of hard to determine based on the turbine housing size, but the 6766 Precision rates at 950 horsepower. So that's going to be a huge difference on this turbo in comparison to what it was. Because this only has a .63 turbine housing, there is kind of a concern how much it will make. Usually if you go to a .82 you can make a lot more power, but still, being that it's a .63, it's going to spool up great and make good power either way. So I just wanted to show you inside the turbine housing. You can see how close this area is to the turbine wheel. With that being so close to the turbine wheel, it's really going to help the spool up a lot. So I'll show you when I drop the shaft in there to get an idea what this looks like. Really helps with spool up to have this area end the scroll as close to this blade as possible. Otherwise, if it doesn't end close to that fin, then a lot of the air and pressure is going to go over top of the turbine wheel. But if the turbine housing is really big, then gets really restrictive at the end, it's going to make it so that the turbine wheel can spin and spool up much faster if it's much closer there. So I really like the way this turbine housing is designed because it's going to spool up really well.